Welcome to Choosing Leadership, and this is another episode of the Can't Stay Silent series with your host Sumit Gupta. This series is about finding the courage to speak our truth and live authentically. For most of my life, I have kept my voice hidden and buried beneath layers of fear and insecurity. In each episode of this series, I will find the strength to express myself from the bottom of my heart without any fear of judgment. These short episodes will be filled with honest reflections, simple stories and metaphors, and some gentle provocations, all to help you deploy yourself in your own life. Together, we will discover how we can create a world where all of us can show up as leaders. So, if you are ready to allow the leader in you to bravely listen to my call of leadership, join me on Can't Stay Silent.
Today is the first in this new series of Can't Stay Silent. And for this one, I am titling it Fall or Flight. As I sit in my office at my home here in Amsterdam, I can look out the window and there's a balcony on the window. And often I see a bird coming and sitting on the edge of the balcony, on the grill of the balcony. And we are multiple floors up. On one end, there is a near certain death if the bird falls down. But then what I see is that the next moment, what I see is the bird takes a gravity-defying flight, and the bird flies like to a tree or somewhere. And I notice this every now and then as my attention goes to the bird as they come and go, and I reflect how much of that is also our human predicament, right? We are at the edge, especially for leaders and entrepreneurs. We are always on the edge. Even sometimes multiple edges or one edge after another. And we have the same fall or flight, right? We have the same two choices. We can look down and we can be afraid of falling, or we can look up to where you want to go and take a flight, right? And I'm wondering, after working with so many entrepreneurs and leaders and even reflecting on myself, how often are we stopped by fear? How often are we stopped by, sometimes even subconsciously, and even paralyzed by inaction and the stories that we tell ourselves? Like for almost 7 or 8 years, I have told myself the story that I am not a coach, but I am only a software engineer, or I am only good in the IT industry, or I don't know how to sell, or like many other stories which have stopped me from doing what I knew that I should do and what was calling me, like my heart was calling me for a long time. But I have been paralyzed by inaction. I have been paralyzed by the fear of falling. This was my balcony and this was my edge. Sitting on the balcony, looking at the sky but not taking the flight serves no one, doesn't serve me, doesn't serve those around me, doesn't serve the companies that I am working with. And it's the same for all of us. If we are standing at the edge of our balconies as leaders and entrepreneurs, and we see the vision, we see where we want to go, and yet we are paralyzed by inaction, yet we are not taking the flight, like metaphorically the action which you could relate to a flight, then we only have ourselves to blame. There's nothing wrong about it. There's nothing wrong about feeling fear. There is nothing wrong about wanting security. But at the same time, it doesn't help you get where you say that you want to go. And obviously, in the physical world, we do not have wings like birds do. But I am talking from the context of leadership. Right? In the leadership world, we do have wings. And perhaps we have never opened them. Perhaps we have never believed that we can fly. And like from a leadership point of view, what could flight mean to you? What could flight mean to your leadership? Another way to ask this question is that, right, if you had wings, where would you fly to? Or if I stop using metaphorical language and use more direct language, I can ask you, if you could not fail, what would you do? Or if you had complete freedom, what would you do? I ask myself these questions every year. At the end of the year, to set myself up for a flight for the next year. And this year 2022 has been one of those years where I have taken flight, where I have done things which I have been procrastinating for a long time. Starting my podcast is one of them. Focusing my coaching entirely on CXOs and their teams is another one of them. And I've let go of the fear of not being a good coach, or not knowing what to say in a coaching conversation, or not being good enough to coach this person or that person. And even for you, right, for each one of you who is listening, again, right, if you had wings, where would you fly to? If you could not fail, what would you do? If you have no restrictions, no constraints, what would you do? And perhaps it is standing up to your boss or to your colleague or to your neighbor, or for a colleague or for a neighbor or for a cause. Or perhaps it is sharing what has been on your mind, but you have kept it inside all this while. Maybe to yourself, but maybe to somebody else. Perhaps it is asking for help. And like, this is so silly, right? Especially for men, I know asking for help is so difficult. Yeah, because we feel that's falling. It feels like admitting your weakness. But if you're committed to something, like, are you really going to stop your commitment or stop your leadership because you can't ask for help? I mean, come on. Like, grow some feathers, or grow some like balls in like more direct language, and ask for what you want. Sometimes it's giving love and compassion, where it is so easy to be indifferent or hateful. Right? To give love or to be kind to somebody, or to even to yourself, is what requires courage, right? Sometimes that could be taking the flight of a bird. Sometimes it is starting your own company, like I did. I started the Deploy Yourself School of Leadership. Sometimes it's pursuing a hobby, like I started photography after maybe 20 years of knowing that I always loved being behind a camera. But I started to take it seriously, and then I started to travel and establish myself as a travel and street photographer. But that could be your thing, right? What is one thing that you have always wanted to do? It could be a hobby, it could be an art form, it could be, I don't know what, but it could be something. But we always have a choice, right? Just like the bird who is on the edge of the balcony, fall or flight. Right? And the choice is actually between fear or courage. I mean, it's not like the bird who flies doesn't have fear. And it's not like the entrepreneur or leader who goes after the impossible doesn't have fear. But I don't think I have been more fearful or I have experienced fear more this year than any other year. Right? But at the same time, I have not stopped myself because of the fear. And that's the difference between fear and courage, or the fall or flight. Right? The flight is acknowledging that you can fall and still flying, still opening up your wings and flying. And it's a choice. It's a choice that, what do you trust more, right? Do you trust gravity more, or do you trust your commitment, your skill, that even if gravity wins, it's okay. Like, even if you fall down, you will get back up. And again, this is not a big or heavy choice which has to pull you down, which has to like put you into serious analysis, paralysis. This is a simple moment-to-moment choice. I'm in a conversation with somebody, and then I sense something is missing for this person, and I want to say that, but I also want to be liked, right? So that's again the choice is coming for me. So it's not something which you only like do once in a while, or like once a year. It's a moment-by-moment choice, right? Are we afraid of falling, which is a metaphor for many things? Or can we take the flight, right? And it's a moment-by-moment choice. Every moment we can make this choice. And I want to leave you with, what are you choosing? Or what will you choose? And are you choosing to choose flight over fall? Just like the bird, right, who comes and sits on the balcony and then flies in front of me. What a wonderful lesson. What a wonderful leadership lesson. What are you choosing today? What are you choosing this moment? What could be the equivalent of taking a flight for you? It could be a big thing like changing your job or starting a company, but it could also be a very small thing like saying no, or being kind to where you have not been kind, or being kind to yourself, or asking for help. But ask yourself, what are you choosing? What will you choose today? Will you choose fall or will you choose flight? Because that's where all leadership is defined, at the edge. Thank you.
That's it for this episode of Choosing Leadership with Sumit Gupta. I choose leadership every time I record this podcast, and I invite you to do the same. I invite you to design a life of joy, meaning, pride, and satisfaction. This is what I do most naturally, to lovingly and gently provoke you, to help you see your own light, to help you see what you are already capable of. I say what might be uncomfortable for me to say or for you to hear. To continue the conversation, leave me a message on LinkedIn or drop me an email to sumit@deployyourself.com. And if you like the sound of this, do not forget to subscribe or leave a rating. And I invite you to subscribe to my newsletter at deployyourself.com/newsletter. Thank you for listening. Always remember that you are enough, you are loved, and you matter. This is Sumit, and until next time, keep choosing leadership.